Hello and welcome to Den of Fools. My name is Fox and you're watching the 40k Stats Show. Let's jump right in. In week 50 of 2022, we had 87 tournaments with a total of 1,275 players and 2,258 games played. We have separated the tournaments into those with under 20 players and those with 20 or more players, as the smaller tournaments are considered less competitive. This week, Imperial Knights had the most wins with 10. The Leads of Votan are close behind with 8 wins, followed by Tau with 7. Chaos Space Marines and Death Guard have 6 wins each, with Chaos Demons, Grey Knights, and Eldari all having 5 wins. The Space Marines, Orcs, and Harlequins round out the factions in green. Necrons, Custodians, Chaos Knights, and Sisters managed 3 wins, with another 4 factions getting 2 wins. Genestealer Cults, Drukhari, and World Eaters all managed to get a win, with Chaos Mates, Admech, and the Unknown factions missing out. Move on to all tournament win rates, which range from 59.6% to 28.6%. We've grouped the win rates by colour, so you can easily see how well each faction is doing. No factions in the blue group with a win rate of 6% or above. The 13 factions in green range from 50 to 59%, with a Ynnari leading this group with 59.6% win rate. The 10 yellow factions are between 40 and 49%, with only 2 red factions at the bottom which have a win rate below 40%. It's time to give a special thanks to our resident stat guru and Ultramarine fanboy Fearless Fox for collecting and interpreting all the data. Here we have part 1 of the full army stats for a total of 25 declared factions. There are a lot of stats on this page, you might want to pause the video so you can see the stats for your favourite faction. What do you think about the differences in win rates between the smaller and larger tournaments? Are there any results that surprise you? Let us know in the comments down below. Up next, my favourite section, my weekly roundup. For our dataset, we have taken all the tournaments on Best Coast pairings between the 12th of December 2022 and the 18th of December 2022. Having said that, in my opinion, using all tournaments data gives a great insight into how well an army is performing in match play 40k, whether you're playing at your local store or at a GT. The Ynnari got the best win rate this week with 59.6%. Now, as it takes us a long time to collect and interpret the data, we don't look at individual army lists, we just take the declared factions of the player as the faction played. It is interesting to see now that we have separated the Ynnari from the Eldari that win rates are quite a bit different, with the Eldari managing a win rate of 49.5%, a whole 10% below the Ynnari. Thanks to those who provided feedback asking us to separate these factions, it definitely made a difference with the win rates. The Space Marines really struggled last week with the lowest overall faction win rate of 58.5%. They managed to grab 4 tournament wins and 22 top 3 places. They even managed to win a tournament with over 20 players, so not all bad news for the Space Marines. Rather unsurprisingly, the Space Marines are the most played faction with 14.9% of all players taking Space Marines, with 641 games played. They did have the worst overall faction win rate, but they do perform marginally better at the smaller tournaments, but even then their win rate was only 40.8%. I wouldn't worry, however, as we have now seen new Space Marine boxes revealed by GW, reminding us all they are never too far away from a new release. The least played faction was World Eaters, with only 7 players choosing to run the White Dwarf supplement. The World Eaters did quite well this week with an overall win rate of 54.2%. There was a very large difference between their win rates for the smaller and larger tournaments. They managed a win rate of 66.7% in the smaller tournaments, while they only got a win rate of 16.7% in the larger tournaments, a massive 50% difference. If you are a World Eaters player, I'd take some comfort from this, as your army can do quite well in a more casual game, even if they're not performing very well in the most competitive tournaments. 22 factions won at least one tournament this week. It is important to remember we take results from small tournaments such as 8-player tournaments, so there are a lot of opportunities for a faction to get a win. 14 factions managed to win at the larger 20 or more player tournaments, with all factions other than Death Guard, Custodians, World Eaters, Adepts and Mechanicus, and the unknown factions managed to get a top 3 place in at the larger tournaments. As you might expect, Space Marine players usually always declare their chapter of choice, with only 14 players out of 186 where the sub-faction is unknown. A new entry, the Minotaurs, are leading the way this week, with their sole player getting a win rate of 66.7%. The Crimson Fists get a win rate of 50%, but again with only one player taking them. This is followed by the groups in yellow, all getting a win rate between 40 and 49%, with the Glorious Sons of Sanguinius rounding out this group with a win rate of 42.7%. The other 12 chapters all get a below 40% win rate, with the Space Wolves just missing out on the yellow group with a 39.5% win rate. 7 chapters are between 30 and 40%, with Fearless's favourite blue boys, the Ultramarines, at a 33.8% win rate. The Firehawks, Flesh Terrors, and Howling Griffins all got a 0% win rate, but with only one player for each chapter. We will see how the reveal formation changes in the next chapter approved affect the Space Marine stats. 19 Chaos Space Marine players sub-faction is unknown, but of those known, a single player of the Fallen have achieved a win rate of 100%. Perhaps this success is why the Dark Angels chapter master Azrael has crossed the Rubicon to become Primaris. The Emperor's Children are still performing well with a 56% win rate, followed by the Alpha Legion on 55.6% and the Black Legion on 51.3%. The Iron Warriors get a win rate of 48%, with the Night Lords being the worst performing warband with a win rate of 31.6%. With an overall win percentage of 50.1% and 6 tournament wins, they are still performing better than the Loyalists, although the Space Marines did manage to get more top 3 placings. If you enjoyed our content, please like, comment and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss one of our weekly stat shows. Here are some videos for you to watch next. If you want to support us, please check out the links in the description. Remember, in the grim dark of the 41st millennium, there is only war, but also not that many tournaments for the rest of December, so our next stat show will have 2 weeks worth of data. Thank you for watching.